4 aspects of practice success. And in any business, and here's the thing. So I do a lot of studying on business and I talk to a lot of people. I have a business coach that I'm paying a significant amount of money. And but it's been brilliant. Actually, I'm learning so much, not just for the business that we do now, obviously with our coaching and marketing, but for future goals. So I have some big future goals as far as taking chiropractic to the next level. And so I just want to learn. I want to be a sponge right now and learn. So one thing that I've learned that these 4 aspects of practice success apply to any single business. So if you wanted to go start a business and sell widgets, or you wanted to have a restaurant, or you wanted to do whatever it is you wanted to do, where you were solving somebody's problem, you were passionate about what you delivered, whether it's a product or service, to solve a problem, and you thought this is going to be a business. And really, that's what we do in chiropractic. We have this beautiful delivery of health to solve people's problems, whether that just, we can take it to a very mechanical, symptomatic level and say whether we want to help them get out of pain and help them feel better, or we want to take it to a very vitalistic level and say we want to allow their full expression of life to be just fully transparent through their birth to the time that they die. We want them to reach their full human potential, and we have that ability. So these 4 aspects of practice success and business success apply to everything. So the first thing is lead generation. So we want to talk a little bit today, and I'd love to get your feedback on lead generation, what's working well, because I've talked about this before. In my opinion, there's 4 portals, if you will, 4 directions of lead generation. And that is, so very, very briefly, very quickly, there are internal organic referrals. So these are referrals that you don't necessarily pay for, but it's just word of mouth. So it could just be a referral from another patient, or it could be just something generic you do in your office, like a patient appreciation day, that attracts people and allows them to get their interest triggered of what you do, and perhaps they have a problem that you have exposed that you can help with. Okay, so that's the first thing. So it's internal organic, and then there's internal paid, where you might do like a patient appreciation dinner, or you might have some sort of an advanced talk, or bring in a guest speaker and bring people into your office that way, but it's something that you would actively pay for to promote. And again, maybe it's a bigger patient appreciation day or a kids day barbecue where you're feeding the community at a barbecue, something like that. And then there's external organic, where you're going out and just helping sports teams and offering your services, whether it be services to companies, doing some just talks for their clients or talks to support groups, and you're just exposing your reputation and your knowledge out there. And then there's external paid, which would be something like online advertising, or maybe you're doing a lunch and learn where you're actually going in and buying people lunch, or maybe you do a big community appreciation dinner at an outside event, like at a wedding hall, or at a restaurant, whatever that might be. So I want to know from you guys what is working well, and I want to know anywhere you might be having challenges. So let's open up the lines here, and you guys chime in on these.
Oh, and for me, I'm doing Facebook. We're doing a lot of Facebook, and that seems to be working well. We put 100% of our referrals into Dr. Delaney's schedule, and that's how she's building. That's number 1. And number 2, we're actually giving out a lot of gift certificates. So Justine posted that Mother's Day, we made up our own, and we've given out a lot of those.
And so this is good. I'd love to just ask you about the gift certificates. So what are the details of the gift certificates, and how many have you put out versus how many have you got back?
I can post a copy of them, but we basically just copied Justine's, and we used Canva to pretty it up. Unfortunately, we're still, we've never actually done marketing before, believe it or not. Internal or external, really, we haven't done a ton. So we're a little late on the uptake. We learned this month, or I was commenting yesterday, that they just gave me the Mother's Day gift certificates, and I said it's too late. Like, they needed to be done a month earlier. So now we're just talking about, we now have a rotating marketing calendar, but now we need to actually work on the timing. Like, it's out too late. So we're going to do it for the whole month. So we just started this week, so I can't give you an actual number because we literally just got our gift certificates. But yesterday I was handing them out like crazy. I even had a family that came in as a dance referral, because I have a lot of dancers that come in, and the parents came out and told me, the mother that she doesn't like chiropractic, And I gave her daughter one, and I said, I know your mother said she doesn't like chiropractors, but I said about we can tell from her posture that she has a problem. So why don't you give this to her for Mother's Day? And their daughter started laughing. The daughter was like 14. She thought it was hysterical. And so I said, your mom deserves to come in for a checkup. So we'll just keep handing them out and see how it goes. We give all of our new patients a family health pass, valid for 2 weeks for their family to come in as well. So that's
Awesome.
been generating leads.
Cool. And so this is a big point. And there's ways to stimulate people to refer. And so that's a fantastic way. So is anybody else doing anything that's going to stimulate people to refer? Dr. Stephen?
Yeah, so we have been including in the DR a portion where we talk about getting the family checked for free if they book tonight, or even a discounted price if you don't know their schedule and you want to book them in at your next appointment. And I just talk about it being on mission, talk about how, my goal is to, not make a bunch of money in an assessment. That's why we do it for free. Our goal is to get this information out to as many people as possible, at least get them checked. And that's been working really well. We've been, we used to be almost like probably 98% Facebook advertising. And I think we're over 50% now with referrals. So yeah, it's going well.
That's fantastic. Great. Anybody else?
Can I add to that, Dr. Collins?
Sure. Absolutely.
Stephen? I will say too, like last week we had a DR and we had like 9 new patients coming out of it, and like 6 of them were kids. So we've also massively increased our kid referrals through what Stephen's saying in DR, because he's had so many success stories with kids lately. So he's sharing that in the DR, and then we follow up with that with giving them the opportunity to get their kids checked for free at DR. And it's working really, really well.
So, Dr. Stephen, if you don't mind me asking, what type of stories are you talking about, and what are you saying to just get people to commit?
So I have 3 shorter kid stories. So I talk about Chloe, who's autistic and selectively mute, and how we started adjusting her. And 6 weeks ago, her mom came in and said, "Oh, by the way, we graduated her from speech therapy." And I kind of lead up to, I'm like, well, I didn't want to assume it was chiropractic, so I asked like what's been different, because she's a crunchy mom, she's doing lots of stuff, and she said the only thing that changed is when we started getting adjusted. That's been the biggest change. And then I talk how that impacts the family, just their ability to interact with her. And then another gal who was like extreme sensory stuff. She would get so agitated by her clothes if she wasn't wearing pajamas that at the end of the school day, with all the noise at school and stuff too, she would go into 3-hour-long tantrums, and she like fell off a cliff. She couldn't rein herself back in. And that same day, mom came in and was like, "Oh, by the way, she no longer has tantrums. If she does get a little agitated, she can pull herself back. She's regulating herself so much better." And then at the end, I share a story of another patient of mine, Kai, who was seeing doctors multiple times a month for being sick all the time, and he had ear infections. There's on multiple courses of antibiotics. And I said, the best miracle is the miracles we won't need in the future, because we corrected them now. And I said, I know from experience seeing lots of patients over the years that people on antibiotics, it leads to things like leaky gut, autoimmune conditions, Crohn's, IBS. And I just had this picture of this is where he was heading. And I told Kai's mom, Krista, you need to bring him in. And so she brought him in, we checked him out, we started adjusting him. And then she wrote like a long review, and I read the entire review about how he's no longer on antibiotics, he's no longer sick, like he's eating better, sleeping better, all that kind of stuff. And I said, and the coolest thing is that was 2 years ago. He's been sick once, and he got over it really quick. Before, it was 3-4 times a month, right? So I said, like, now the coolest thing is he's not headed down that path of medication use, surgery, antibiotics, like all these kinds of things, autoimmune conditions. So, and then I just kind of wrap up and say, and so, be on mission with us, get your family checked. Can't wait to go over your results with you and kind of close it up from there.
That's awesome. So 2 things I see there. This is brilliant, really important for you guys to understand this, is that number one, so obviously Dr. Stevens become a really good storyteller. So that engages people, and having stories about kids, like not once are you talking about back pain or headaches or any type of pain syndrome. It's usually a neurological deficit. So it's tantrums or ADD or ADHD or sleeping problems or bedwetting or ear infections or medication use, so that message gets through to people, and it helps, again, you're changing paradigms as you start to do that. So directly, it's a great way to get the kids in, but indirectly, it helps people start to think different for themselves too. So awesome job. Thank you.
We get lots of spouses in as a result of that too, that change paradigm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So anybody else having great success with anything that they're doing to generate some leads? All right. Well, we can come back to that. Let's go on to the next one. So the next thing that we want to talk about here is lead conversion. So lead conversion is a big thing. And this is one thing, and I talk a lot about this stuff when I talk to coaching clients or I'm talking to marketing clients. It's one thing to attract a lot of people into your office, but if you don't have systems in place and good training with your team in place to change their thinking, because let's just assume the majority of people are coming in to see you like they would go to the medical doctor or like they would go to any other therapist. They're coming in to get some sort of symptomatic relief for something. So unless we start to change their thinking, we don't convert them into lifelong chiropractic patients. And our office becomes this hamster wheel, this treadmill of people coming in and then leaving after a few visits. And it's really tough to grow a practice. So you look at this for any single business, any business wants to not just attract customers, they want to retain customers, convert customers into what they're delivering and what they sell, that product or service. So what are you guys doing that's working really well to help convert leads onto some level of care? And on the other hand, is there anybody that's really having challenges in that aspect? I want to ask you guys right now as far as team training, because this, I'm going to say lead conversion involves having a really well-trained team. What are you guys doing right now for team training? Or on the other hand, where is that lacking?
Hi, Colin. I would say on the side, I am having some challenges with conversions recently, like just a lot of no money, like literally there like a lot of struggles. And I know you can say, okay, they drive a car, they have a cell phone, but they're also living 12 people to a house, 3 families to a house. Um, so trying to find that fine line of a slower approach and making it uh like legit, they're saying like I can't afford, $100 a month, and finding like, okay, do you just discard them because they have $500 insurance and that's all they're going to do? um it's been, sometimes I try to hold the line and they're literally just gone. But if you have 20 people do that in a month, that really affects your bottom line as well. So I would say that definitely in the last 3 months, even with all of the fear around tariffs, around Trump, whatever the situation is, that is certainly, we've had a tough time. They're definitely doing team training. I up that to twice a week instead of like for my back end, and twice a week for the front end. So doubled up on training. That does help. You have more time if you're seeing less people to talk to people. We do have the triple promo. I do have a makeover coming up. I have a dinner coming up. I have always the internal talk. So like I'm doing the Mother's Day, plus I'm giving all the moms a carnation, a flower, and I do have my Teachers Week coming up. So definitely stacking, but just the people coming in the door for conversions is been harder.
Yeah. So thanks, Justine. And you're not alone. I would say a lot of people have that concern right now. It's a big money thing. And I know economically, the economy is not in a good place. And I know there's a lot of people struggling financially. And here's one thing that I would just suggest, and this is something that I remember talking with our team about, is that we look at our practice and we say, are we at our full capacity? And if we were not at our full capacity, like if all the doctors in our office were not seeing that the maximum number of people that they could see in the time that they have allotted to see those people with full efficiency and to deliver great service, then we're not at our full capacity. So I was more willing to say, okay, well, let's compromise our care plans or maybe even lower our care plans to lower the bar so more people could come in, or we'd accept more scholarship fees, or we'd accept people that were in hardship, some sort of financial hardship, as long as we felt it was legitimate. I did have a guy saying he thought that our fees were too expensive because he had just bought a new Harley and he was making payments on his new Harley. And I said, well, come back when your health's a priority enough for you. So it has to be a legitimate concern. But I would say if you're not at your full capacity, that would be the time to reevaluate your care plans and make it more accessible to people if you're getting a lot of that.
I
On
would
the
say,
other
like
hand,
recently, we are getting a lot of that. We're down about 100, maybe 150 visits a week. So it does, that obviously has a bottom line. Am I still over 550 a week? So other people would say, oh, you're still busy, but it's still down for me. Um,
right.
So at a certain point, like I've, cut hours on staff, cut shifts, like you have to cut your costs, which then, does affect morale because that doesn't warrant the staffing for the, an extra 100 people, you drop the staff. So, um, it's still a fine line because if you promote whatever, say 64 adjustments or 3 times a week for a month, and then you cut back, knowing that you still want them to get something, and there is a legit concern financially, I will always say, uh, you know, lesser results, right? Like get your spinal rehab, lesser results. But I'm getting people like I'm not purchasing the red bag. We call it still the spinal rehab. I'm not doing any exercises. Tell me how I can do that for free. Like I am, and I don't know if it's Brampton or what it is, but I would say this last 3 months has been more than 50%. Like it's a significant difference.
Here's a different perspective on that. And it comes down to little business economics here as far as supply and demand. And you look at this, if you own the ice cream truck and you went to some sort of a summertime event, maybe it was a concert, and you were the only ice cream truck there, and it was a really hot day, and there was a lineup in front of your ice cream truck of 30 people long waiting to get ice cream. If somebody came up to the top of the line and said, listen, I'd love to get ice cream, but I don't have any money, or I've only got half the amount of money you charge. Like, I mean, people would not be asking for discounts if they saw that there was, 30 people in line behind them. So in that situation, I would say if you're attracting a lot of that, then we can look at it differently and say we just need to increase the demand. So maybe it's a case of focusing on our new patient flow, whether it's our
Mhm.
marketing or whether we go out and do more talks or whether we're involved with more companies doing more lunch and learns to attract more people. And those people that are willing to commit and willing to pay will displace the people that
Right.
aren't willing. And then you can raise your bar. So then you're less apt to have to give discounts.
Good news is, I mean, I have uh, 3 booths coming up. All right, so and 2 outside talks. So it's not like I'm not keeping the marketing machine up. And I don't want to be a whiner, but I would say that when you ask if there's a challenge, even when you're at high volume, or people think over 500s, 600s high volume. I don't know what high volume is now, if that's 1,000 or 500, whatever. There's still challenges.
Oh, for sure. There's always challenges, but I think you just choose what you're willing to focus on and what you're not. So I agree. Like, I mean, you've got an extremely busy practice, and 100 patients a week. When you're down from 800 or 750 or whatever it was you're at, that's a significant difference. But I think you have to figure out where the capacity is and where then you become to the point where you're unwilling to accept anybody for less than your regular fee because you're at full capacity. So, and I would say this is something we talked about as a team too. If we weren't at full capacity, we're more than willing to accept people that couldn't pay, or we're more than willing to make arrangements for people coming in financially so that we could become at full capacity. Therefore, we demonstrate demand for what we're doing. And therefore, then, the next people that come in, if we're at full capacity, we can't fit in more new patients, then we're less willing to say, okay, we can't give discounts. We can't give scholarship fees at this point. We just don't have the time or the resources to do that.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a good conversation.
And we did add for those that are just at the end of the school year, a teacher appreciation week, to a flyer to again bring in more new people.
Awesome. Anybody else having good success or challenges with lead conversions? I would love and I know Dr. Steven and I had a conversation here because I know most of you guys do Facebook marketing. I mean, this is an avenue that I'm in on a daily basis, so I have these conversations all the time. And there's the lesser of two evils. And I know, Christine, we've talked about this before, so maybe you can chime in, because Christine has an offer on Facebook. If you're still doing the same offer, I believe you said it was a $97 offer. So immediately you're weeding people out from the beginning, whereas Dr. Steven has a $47 offer where it's an exam plus the first adjustment. So he's attracting a lot of people who just want a quick fix. And so his conversion percentage is down, despite the fact he's got a ridiculous number of new patients coming in every month. So there's pros and cons to both. So I'd love for you guys to comment on those.
Yeah, we tried a cheaper offer, Colin. And actually, that before I started with Colin, I was with Mike Reed. And so we still use the ethical bribe. So we still, in that $97, we include a complimentary cervical pillow. So we cut down we don't get as many leads, but we find the quality of them is much better. So we were overwhelmed by calling people before with a less expensive lead, and then half the time they wouldn't show up because we didn't take prepayment. So I was actually listening to, last night I listened to the talk that you had on how often should you call people, and so we're really struggling with the follow-up because we really only have one full-time staff. So we're understaffed. We brought somebody on for the summer who has been with me for many years, but that's our challenge is we don't have enough staff. We don't have enough quality staff and full-time staff to convert, to follow up with the leads the way you had laid out in that video that you have. So that's a big challenge. When I listened to that video, I was just thinking, how are we going to do that? Like who's going to be the one dedicated person responsible for following up with those leads?
Yeah, great point. So I'm glad you brought that up because so it's actually relatively straightforward to either hire a part-time person, a student, a part-time stay-at-home mom, and give them access to a phone number or even an office cell phone or something where they can call your leads an hour a day and just make communication and make contact. Or you hire a virtual assistant, and there's tons of virtual assistants that you can pay next to minimal, and they can call the leads for you on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, and so that's what we do. We do have a student that's come back, but what we find is that it's the quality of care. Like I just let somebody go for the second time in 28 years of practicing, which was hard, but it's just getting the right quality, knowing that the people that you've got in those positions, patients need to feel the love. It doesn't matter what role it is, even from the fact that they say hi when they walk in the door. So, those are things that when you hire a student, you have to train them on that, right? Like what is we were talking about an office, even an officer, what does that look like? And does the patient actually feel that you cared about them from the second that they walked into your office, right? So it is hard to find dedicated, skilled, part-time staff. So that's our challenge.
I'd love for you to share, Christine, what your offer is and how much you're spending on ads on a monthly basis.
Our offer is $97. It includes the initial assessment, complimentary cervical pillow, and it includes their report of findings and their x-rays. And we spend, I think, about $1,200, and that includes our online ad spend. And the results, I can't tell you because I'm sitting in a car in Kingston parking lot.
So I'd love to know what that generates, like how many new patients a month are actually showing up in the office. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that Dr. Dillany for a year struggled at maybe like $5,000 a month, and she just collected $21,000 last month. But she is getting 100% of the Facebook leads at this minute, up till this month. And this month, I mean, I've been just going off of my own internal referrals. And so this month, I let them know that I want to push her a little bit. And so I'm going to take 25% of those Facebook leads now to make her, try to stimulate her to work harder on her internal leads.
Awesome.
So, yeah. But I can try to get you that number, Colin.
Yeah, no, I'd love to know just for the group. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Stephen, what on contrary, what are you guys doing as far as your details, as far as your Facebook marketing?
So it's $49, and it's their assessment and their first adjustment. On their first adjustment, though, we will get probably 90% of people that do the therapies plus correction potential X-ray, and so that we charge $50 for. So it ends up being $99 for the first 2 visits, and then and then the DR's third visit. I was going to say for lead conversion, like I've noticed as well too that we really hunkered down and trained on making sure that every single new patient gets a tour, and a really good tour. I made that a strong priority, and that actually has made a huge difference in conversions. Just coming into the room once they've had that tour, there's just a different energy about it, right? So different interaction.
Awesome. That's gold. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. Cool. All right. Anybody else on this one before we go to the next one? All right, we can always come back. But so the third thing, as far as the 4 pillars of creating a great business, is patient engagement. So getting your patients engaged in everything you're doing. And this is a huge part of creating a lifetime patient, is that converting them into care, getting them to sign a care plan, that's one thing. I mean, that's very important because that's the initial commitment, but keeping them. And so I hope you guys are keeping stats as far as the number of new patients that come in this month versus the number of people that actually make it to their first re-exam next month. And we always said that, you know, if we had 35 new patients in April, in May, we should have 35 re-exams. So that, you know, if our number of re-exams is less than the number of new patients from last month, then they're dropping off somewhere along the way. And I want to know where they're dropping off. Where's the pattern? So we want to address those holes in the bucket. So what do you guys do in your offices to engage people in their care and keep them excited about coming in?
I can't remember who sent it out, but someone sent out that like 60 days of like patient education or whatever. I haven't been as diligent on that as I should, but when we use it, it's works really well. And then just doing workshops at least once a quarter, or try to.
That was a big thing for us. And so we implemented that monthly nutrition workshop. And that was a goal for us to make sure that we're really focusing on every single new patient to get to that monthly nutrition workshop. And the nutrition workshop was different every month. And it went every quarter. We had different events. So we had basically 3 nutrition workshops. They were all different. And we would repeat them every quarter. So that gave new patients a way to get engaged right off the bat. So having any type of regular routine outside of your normal adjusting, schedules is really good because again, it creates a reason for people to get excited about coming in and getting healthy. So, I mean, people are interested in weight loss, they're interested in nutrition, they're interested in, changing their hormones, they're interested in having more energy, sleeping better. So any of these topics are supportive things that you can do outside of your chiropractic care. So it doesn't have to be always chiropractic, as that is our number one delivery of what we do. But all of these supportive things can generate just this energy and retention in your office to get people engaged. And then if it feeds in, like our nutrition workshop fed into other programs. So we had a weight loss program, or we had a nutrition program that when people got engaged in that, they would spend a lot more money on top of their care plan. So we looked at the people who were really, really interested in that. I always found, and I think this is common with any business, 20% of the people will generate 80% of your income. So you just keep putting out offers out there and opportunities for those 20% of your practice members to engage in other things that you deliver. And therefore, they're going to just want to be part of what you do and spend their money on what you do in your office rather than go somewhere else. So anything like that is really worthwhile. Anybody else doing anything fun like that? The other thing that we did was we had a dinner program. And I mean, we've talked about this many, many times. So it used to be originally we did patient appreciation dinners, and we would do that on a monthly basis. And they would just be smaller dinners. We had a restaurant that we booked their private room, and it was served. We'd have 2 waitresses, and typically we would have up to about 30 people at those dinners. But it would be a great way to get new patients. We'd specifically focus on new patients, give them a handwritten invitation, ask them to bring their spouse, especially if their spouse wasn't in the office yet. And then we just go and we just share the vision, just share our vision of what we do, why we're chiropractors, how we cared for our kids. Our kids got adjusted the day they were born. I'd talk about stories of my family because I had all kinds of different stories about getting lost in the medical profession and the damage that created. And it would just bring them into our big vision. And therefore, we talk to them about either getting their family members in or becoming warrior patients for our office and asking them who are they thinking about that really needs to be part of this vision. And therefore they would just start referring. But the cool thing was it brought them into the inner circle. And when they felt like they were in the inner circle, they became lifelong patients. They really bought into what we were doing. So again, it created that energy. So I can't express that enough to you guys that a dinner program is worth its weight in gold, not just for the new patients and to create an energy about those new patients and that retention, but also for you. It's really a way for you to express your love for serving people. And I always came out of those dinners feeling so good. I was so fulfilled because I was able to give back, buy them dinner, have a great time. And it gave me a platform to be able to share my vision with people. And I mean, naturally, it was reciprocated because they're at just a positive event. And we had all kinds of great testimonials and people talk about how their lives have changed since they started coming to our office. It was a really positive thing. So I can't express enough how how good that is. If you're having trouble with retention or you want to get your practice to the next level, implement that dinner program. And then we took it to the community appreciation dinners, which we did every 8 weeks, and we just grew it so that it was a big event. Anybody else doing anything to keep people engaged? All right, well, we'll go on to the next one. And that the last one is retention. So these are the 4 things that create a great business. And again, you can apply this to your chiropractic practice, but you can apply this to any single business: lead generation, lead conversion, patient engagement. Some businesses call it customer ascension, where you're upselling the customers that you already have on other programs you have. So like I talked about the nutrition program, or retention. So what are some other things that you guys are doing to create that energy, to create good retention?
Yeah, I think our retention has always been good. Yeah, there's no way it's one thing. Retention starts with a doctor's report. Like, we're talking lifetime care. And once I fix you, it shouldn't be all for naught. You should maintain it. And I recommend you take care of your spine throughout your life. Like, that starts day one. But yeah, and then at the 1 month review, when we're checking in with people, I'm making sure, one of my favorite questions I ask at the 1 month review, 99% of people are noticing improvements. And I ask them the question, that's wonderful. Most people feel improvements. Do you understand why that's happening? It's one of my favorite questions to answer, and you see how they answer that question to see if you've taught them well. And then you can redirect to make sure they understand it's because we're opening up those nerve channels. The innate wisdom of the body is doing what it's supposed to do. And so just every reevaluation has these check stops where you're educating and making sure they get it. So certainly not just one thing. It's really all the way through care.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
You just spurred my memory, because we would ask a similar question. That's a great question to ask. And we would ask a similar question, saying that, addressing their initial symptoms. You originally came in here with sciatica. If you would have come in here with fibroids, uterine fibroids, or if you would have come in here with ingrown toenails, what do you think we would do differently?
Oh, yeah.
And it would ultimately, lead to the same discussion. The same answer is that we're opening up nerve channels and allowing the innate wisdom of the body to express itself. So that is a brilliant question. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. When we do, I've always done a progress report. So at the end of, well, now we do 6-month care plans. So when we do the reevaluation with x-rays after 5.5 months, I do a progress report. So it's not a quick, it's if I have a group, it'll be a quick 10-minute group setting, like a doctor's report, but very quick. It's like a very quick mini doctor's report. Again, I've always done that. Very few people re-sign after their corrective phase. So I think the progress report has always helped. There's many components, but it's the message in our office is certainly, we're going to fix it, and then maintain this thing. That's ingrained in everything we do.
You bring up such a valuable point in the fact that your care plan, you don't wait till the last day to talk about re-signing onto some level of preventative care, wellness care, subluxation prevention care. That's a big one right there. I hope everybody picked up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
One of the things, I'll add one more thing. When just because we did our progress report yesterday, when I meet with people in the room afterwards to see their x-rays, I actually have the conversation before I show the x-rays. So I actually put up like the 0 to 100% function and health charts, and showing symptoms are 60% or lower. And I asked them, when you first came in, where would you peg yourself in terms of your level of health, and where would you peg yourself now? And so, they might say I was 40%, I had all these pains. Now I'm 65% because my pain is better. And then I asked them, what is your current goal? Do you want to push for more, or are you happy where you're at and you want to maintain it? Those are kind of the two options. And that dictates my recommendation. We might stay weekly if they want to push for more and keep doing your home care, etc. If they say, no, I'm happy where I'm at, where I'm at more maintenance, then okay, we might go to every 2 weeks. But that's kind of decided before I even show the results of their x-rays, because whether the x-rays got better, got worse, or stayed the same, in my mind, doesn't change it. Yeah. Whereas if people are too hung onto the x-rays, they might be like, oh, they barely moved, this isn't working. Or it's really good, it's corrected now, I can stop. I don't want them attached to the result of the x-ray so much, more so understanding the concept of it's a lifetime journey, regardless of what these x-rays show. So, and anyways, I have the conversation before I show the x-rays. I think that's been valuable too for me.
Awesome. That is beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? And feel free to comment on any of the 4 pillars here. So we have a few more minutes.
Colin, what I do with all progress exams, we do them every 12 visits, so not just the year exam, is included a nerve chart and circling the areas where I typically adjust and where those nerves go to, and reviewing the nervous system with every progress exam. And then the kinesiologists have a education question. So we rotate the 5 questions, and then we have an education slide with each progress exam, so that they're helping to review that patient education every 12 visits. That helps make a difference. And then I have been using Dr. Lyon's 3D conversion videos. It is a monthly prescription, but those videos are really good for patient education at progress exams.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And Justine, you bring up a huge point. And I said this, I did a call yesterday on the Max Living Network. And one of the things that I talked about was, we have such a great X-ray correction technique, process. And especially with marking x-rays and really analyzing subluxation and abnormal curvatures in the spine. I think there's no better system, there's no better technique to analyze the spine and do specific type of adjusting to get correction. However, we have to be cautious because we shouldn't get hung up on that. And what you just said about making sure you relate everything you do, every adjustment, every correction, monitoring x-rays, whatever that is, you relate it neurologically, so that patients make that association that the problems they have in their spine are 100% related to their nervous system function, which relates to their healing and their life expectancy. Like the way that their organs function, the way that they can express their full life potential, and frankly, the quality and quantity of their life is 100% related to their spine. So until we have good communication systems to relay that message, we're still going to be struggling as far as keeping lifetime patients. So for those of you who have great retention, like clearly you're doing that very well. So keep it up. Anybody else? All right, gang. Well, I hope that was valuable. Thank you guys for engaging and sharing that. I think that type of stuff is hugely valuable for our network to hear how, no matter where, no matter what level of practice you're at, what is working well for you. And it's really good to share these things so we can learn off each other. I think that is such a valuable tool. So I appreciate you guys engaging in that. All right. Anybody have any last comments or any questions before we depart?
I just had one quick question for Kevin. When you do your progress report, is that like a video that you have them watch, or do you literally do a small group progress report?
Yeah, no, I actually do a small group. I do it once a week. We alternate. 1 week it'll be Wednesday at 6. 1 week it'll be Wednesday at 10:30. So people have the choice if they want to do a morning or evening. So we do the last set of x-rays like 3 weeks before the end of their plan. So if they're choosing, one that's in 2 weeks from now, like we always do it before the plan ends. And it's quick. It's 10 minutes in person. And yeah, it is in person. So it's a quick 10 minutes to the group and then individually going over their x-rays. Mm-hmm.
How much do you allot per patient when you go over their x-rays? Like 5 minutes?
Yeah. 5. I mean, depends on how many people are there. Yesterday, I probably spent 10 minutes because there was only 2 people. And it was good conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and there you go. I mean, there's, Kevin doesn't do a lot of marketing for new patients because he has such a great retention practice because people just want to stay. So That's well done. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet.